Alrighty, Yoshalaki! Hello everyone, I am back after a short break with some more empathy with Chapter 10, Focus. In the last chapter, we, sorry, just trying to remember. Everyone was able to help Riley to recover from her accidental coma by getting the neurotransmitter off her with the help of Baymax. So it looks like that'll have to be refixed. I'm currently walking close to the road, where it's really bright and sunny today, as usual.
It's only been the last couple of months that I changed.
Yeah, I'm going to be walking past us as I'm recording this. So, by the ending of the last part, Riley realized that she was able to hear her 5 emotions: joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust.
Was that full?
Yep, just heading past. So, what will these new powers bring? Sorry, I'm just trying to... Alright. Expect to hear a lot of cars driving along as usual, and maybe some roadworks. I'll try and find somewhere quieter where I can read this. Don't worry, as I've said before, I just took a short break. I think I'll be able to do this. If I start stuttering, I'm sorry, I just can't control that. But not yet, anyways. So anyway, let's continue. Riley sat in class, nervously tapping her pencil against the notebook in front of her, her free hand propping her head up with her elbow against the desk. Her eyes were focused on her teacher, lecturing at the front of the room. But Riley was doing anything but paying attention. You know, we should probably be paying attention to what she's saying. Samus's voice echoed in her head. This will probably be on the test. Riley's eyes narrowed in annoyance. Hey, keep it down! Anger snapped at far too loud of a volume, causing Riley to wince involuntarily. We can't go distracting her all the time! So what? Disgust questioned, the sneer evident in her voice. Are we just supposed to never talk again? I certainly wouldn't mind if it shut your... Anger growled before joy cut in as Riley increased the tempo of her pencil tapping. Guys, please, Joyce pleaded. This really isn't the time to argue. We just need to get through school today. After that, we can go to Hiro's house and talk to him and Tadashi. I'm sure they'll be able to fix whatever this is. But what if they can't? Came fierce panic's reply, prompting Riley to close her eyes and start rubbing her forehead in agitation. What if we're stuck like this forever? Or worse, what if they don't believe us? What if they think we're crazy and lock us away in some madhouse for the rest of our lives? Well, you can call me crazy, but at least I'm grounded enough in reality with some sprinkles of craziness to not be at that point. I'll never be at that point, hopefully. That's not going to happen, fear. Joy tried to reassure him, though Riley could hear her voice wavering. Our friends wouldn't do that to us. They might, Sadness argued. If they thought we suffered brain damage from the neurotransmitter, they might do it for our own good. Oh, come on, Sadness! Joy snapped with agitation, causing Riley to stop tapping her pencil and grip it tightly in her hand. That's not helping. Neither is your Pollyanna optimism, Disgust spoke up. Things aren't going to be fine just because you keep pretending they are. Hey, I thought I told you to shut your trap! Anger growled, prompting things to quickly dissolve as Riley's emotions began arguing amongst themselves. Riley couldn't distinguish the words being said as her emotions shouted at one another, their voices settling into a cacophony of sound that caused her head to pound and her teeth to grind together. Riley's fist shook as she clutched the pencil so tightly her knuckles turned white, her eyes clenched closed in a barely controlled frustration. Vaguely, Riley was aware of Tip talking to her, but she barely noticed it over the din in her head as she reached her limit and the pencil snapped in half in her hand. "Quiet!" Riley snapped as she jumped to her feet, her chair scraping across the floor as she slammed her hands against the desktop. Everything went quiet then, not just in her head, but all around Riley. Slowly opening her eyes, Riley looked around at the classroom and found everyone staring at her. Riley's face flushed in embarrassment as she noticed a few of her fellow students whispering to one another, their eyes never leaving her. Glancing to her side, Riley found Tip looking up at her with wide eyes, her hand held out like she had been about to lay on Riley's arm before she stood up. The slight buzz of an alien confusion stirred at the front of her mind, for it was weak enough that Riley was able to ignore it. "Riley?" her teacher asked with confused concern. "Is everything all right?" I... Riley stammered, her face growing redder as tears started welling up in her eyes. "It was my fault," Tip quickly interjected, mercifully bringing everyone's attention to her. "She was trying to pay attention and they wouldn't stop bothering her. I'm sorry." "Right," the teacher replied, looking only slightly mollified by the interruption. "Just make sure it doesn't happen again." Tip nodded in agreement as Riley sat down, sliding as low as she could in her chair in a vague attempt to hide from her fellow classmates and their gazes. As the teacher turned her attention back towards the whiteboard at the front of the class, Tip looked towards Riley and laid a hand on the other girl's shoulder. Riley looked at the concerned and confused expression on Tip's face, feeling it in that new, alien way as much as seeing it. She offered Tip a half-hearted smile, but no explanation, as she straightened in her seat and turned her attention back to her notes. Riley sighed as she picked up the remains of her pencil, looking at the two halves sitting in her palm. "Oh, Riley," she heard Joyce whisper, pain clear in her voice. "We're so sorry." Riley said nothing in reply as she went back to trying to take notes with a broken pencil. Strange alien feelings of emotions, right? I wonder if this may have something to do with the certain powers of Jean Grey. Later, Riley sat in the beanbag chair in Hero's garage, staring absent-mindedly at the object in her hand. It was a cylindrical object, less than an inch long and made out of black metal. A ball joint in its center allowed it to bend easily in any direction. "Microbot, microbot, it's a microbot. All hail the microbot. Microbot!" Glancing around the garage, she saw the rest of her friends scattered around the room. Yeah, sorry about earlier, I'm such a goofball. Honey and Tadashi sat together on the couch, whispering quietly to one another. Fred and Tip sat on the floor in front of the television, game controllers clenched in their hands, with O sitting behind them, watching the flashing visuals. At the same time, Gogo was sitting in one of the chairs, chatting with Wasabi, who was leaning against one of the workbenches. "So," Hero questioned from her side, startling Riley, "what do you think? Like the microbot design?" Riley looked up at Hero, who was looking down at her with barely contained eagerness. Seeing him smiling at her caused a grin to spread across her own face, as she was blindsided by an alien feeling of joy. The feeling came in frighteningly fast, and Riley quickly diverted her eyes as her heart started hammering in her chest. "Oh, this is too much!" she heard fear scream in her head. "Why is there worse coming from him? We have to get away!" It's cool," Riley stammered as she quickly handed Hero the microbot. Hero took it back as he regarded Riley with a confused expression, sending a disorientating buzz through Riley's head. "Are you okay, Riley?" Hero questioned. "Lie!" Fear pleaded. "We can't let them know! Lie!" "Tell them the truth." I'm fine," Riley said, trying to sound reassuring and failing. Well, I'm convinced, Disgust commented sarcastically. Really, Riley? Tip said as she turned away from the game and looked at the girl with her brow furrowed, Fred looking between them in confusion. You're going to say that after what happened at school today? Seriously? Anger demanded. Did she really just throw us under the bus like that? What happened at school today? Tadashi questioned, a concerned look on his face. Nothing, Riley insisted, shooting a glare at Tip. It wasn't nothing, Riley, Tip argued as she stood up. You had a total freak out in the middle of class. Oh, that little... Anger snarled. It wasn't a freak out, Riley snapped, hopping to her feet so fast it caused Hira to take a step back in surprise. Then what was it, Riley? Fred questioned, laying a hand on Tip's shoulder and shooting her a look that caused the girl to back off. No! Fear moaned. If they find out, they'll lock us in the loony bin! Have you been watching too much cartoon shows? There's no way they'll believe us, Sandus agreed. Really, Riley? It wasn't anything, okay? Riley insisted, crossing her arms over her chest and shying away from the others. Just leave it alone. Or how about we just not leave it alone? Oh. As a wise master once said, never put off until tomorrow what can be done today. All you have to do is tell everyone about your problem and they'll be able to help you. Sure, they might not believe you at first, but it's better than just waiting until the problem gets any worse. Her friend shared unconcerned, unconvinced looks. We're your friends, Riley, Honey said, her voice full of empathy. You can talk to us. Thank you, Honey Lemon. But seriously, where did the nickname for Honey Lemon come from? Well, was she like eating from a jar of honey and happens to dunk lemons into it? Is that Honey Lemon what it's all about? Riley began to argue but fell silent as she felt a hand on her shoulder. Turning around, Riley found Gogo standing behind her, giving her a warm smile. There's no use lying to us, Fargo, Gogo told her. We can see right through your bullshit. Alright, after the last chapter, I've made a decision. If swear words are in the story, and there's, about no one around, or at least having a quiet voice, it's completely okay for me to swear while reading the story if it comes from the story. But never anywhere else. Never anywhere else. If it's cursed, I can easily swap to something more kid-friendly, I will do so. So I'm gonna swap this around to Bullshake. Riley looked up at Gogo before slowly scanning the garage. All her friends were standing around her, clearly concerned. The emotions she felt drifting off of them were so intense that tears started welling up in Riley's eyes. This is too much, Sandus whispered. I don't know what to do. This is way too much. Hey, Gogo said as she crouched down and wrapped her arms around Riley. It's okay. No, it's not, Riley said, tears running down her cheeks as she leaned against Gogo. It's not okay. I don't think it will ever be okay again. What happened, Riley? Tadashi questioned, fear clear on his features. I guess... Joyce began to say before pausing as she sighed. I guess we had better tell them. Thank you, Joy! As a certain purple alicorn once said, honesty is one of the pillars of friendship. Are you sure this is a good idea? Fear questioned. Yes, it is a good idea. No, Joy relented. But what choice do we have? It was the transmitter, Riley answered. It did something to me. What do you mean? Gogo questioned, pulling away from Riley and shooting a glare at O, who had the good graces to look ashamed. What did it do to you? Alright, walking towards someone cutting the grass, so be ready to hear grass cutter sounds as I'm reading. You all thought it was a dream, but it wasn't, Riley explained. The emotions, they're real. I can hear them talking to me. A ripple seemed to go through the group as they digested Riley's words, sharing glances with one another that now had fear mixed with concern. Riley, Wasabi started to say before cutting himself off as Riley whipped her head around. Her red-rimmed eyes glaring at him. I'm not crazy! Hey, Riley barked, anger coloring her features. I didn't... Wasabi tried to say in shocked surprise before Riley cut him off again. You were feeling it, Riley growled. I could feel you feeling it. What? Wasabi questioned, completely flabbergasted. Yeah, Anger barked. I see you over there, dreadhead. I can feel what you're feeling, Riley replied, her anger turning into a pained expression on her features as she looked around at the others. I can feel what each and every one of you is feeling right at this moment. And it's so much. Empathy. Oh, yeah. What? Gogo began to say before she paused and took a moment to collect her thoughts. What do you mean you can feel what we feel? I mean exactly that, Riley explained. I know what you're all feeling because I feel it too. How is that possible? Tip questioned, surprise and confusion written across her features. They don't believe her, do they? Well, it's completely understandable. I mean, stuff like this, it's not realistic. I don't know, Riley explained with a shrug of her shoulders. It's like, I feel my emotions normally, but there's also this separate part of me that feels other emotions too. Sometimes they conflict with one another, sometimes they combine to feel stronger than any emotion I've ever felt before. There was a pause as the others thought over what Riley had said, each of them feeling of such a flurry of emotions she couldn't tell one from the other. There's no way, Wasabi finally concluded with a shake of his head, causing Riley to cringe away from him. There's just no way she can do this. Oh no, this is it! Fear moaned. Why can't she? Fred questioned with a pointed look. Oh... Huh? Joy questioned in surprise as Riley looked over at Fred. There's no such thing as psychic powers, Fred, Wasabi argued, narrowing his eyes at the other man. Bullshake, there's not, Fred retorted as he held up 2 fingers. I got 2 names for you, Wasabi. Everseer and Psychwave. I also have 2, though it's mainly one overpowering the 2. Jean Grey and Phoenix. I've also got 2. Actually, this is the same person. Jean Grey, Phoenix, and Miss Martian. That's 2 that I can name. Who? Wasabi questioned, his expression baffled. There were 2 supers back during the Golden Age, Fred explained. Oh my goodness, that's Incredibles! Oh my goodness, that is Incredibles right there! And I thought of the Despicable Me reference with... And the Monsters vs. Alien, oh my god! I'm really sorry, but I'm just flabbergasted. This guy, Finmonster, it's like he's making his own shared universe. And it is, in fact, incredible. Where was I? Oh yeah. Both of them had psychic powers. And it's not that they may have had psychic powers. This is known fact. There's government files and everything. Both of them showed off way more power than what Fargo is claiming to have. Fred, just because you read this in a comic book, Wasabi started to argue with a sigh. Don't talk to me like I'm stupid, Wasabi, Fred snapped, taking Wasabi by surprise. These people were real. There's mountains of evidence saying they were. You saying that there's no such thing as psychic powers is the same as saying a man can't fly. And if you think that, then I have a lot of newsreel I'd like to show you. Fine, Wasabi relented with a sigh, his expression apologetic. I'm sorry. I'm sorry too if I sound a bit too excited, because Incredibles was one of my favorite movies when I went to see it as a kid. I have the DVD somewhere at home, and I'm heck bent on going to see Incredibles 2 in the theaters in the UK, because Incredibles was my childhood movie, and it was just amazing. The mix of James Bond and superheroes. I never really got the full theme of it until just now, but I am definitely excited to see Incredibles 2. I bet it's gonna be great. Don't worry about it, man, Fred smiled with a dismissive wave of his hand. So it's possible that Riley does have powers, Honey concluded. It must have something to do with the transmitter, Hiro surmised before turning his attention towards O. Can Boob Tech do that? I supposes, O replied thoughtfully. We Boob are quite advanced. Part of the reason is that we have all our biggest brains connected to one another through our technology. So the Boob have their own form of neurotransmitter, Tadashi observed. Probably a lot more advanced. So advanced not even human beings can be able to control it. Yes, O agreed with a nod of his head. That might explain it then, Hiro said pensively as he turned back towards Riley. When O's adjustments to the transmitter got you caught in that feedback loop, it must have rewired your brain somehow. Wait! Joyce said with an excited gasp. That might mean... Can you fix it? Riley asked, looking at O hopefully. I'm not knowing how, O admitted as he turned a shade of blue, not willing to look Riley in the eyes he spoke. I am not knowing anything about human brains, and you are the first human to use booth technology ever. I do not have the knowledge to fix you, if you can be fixed at all. Oh no, Sandus whispered in Riley's ear as she bit her lip and diverted her gaze, fighting against the tears welling up in her eyes. She squeezed her eyes closed as she felt the waves of sympathy roll off her friends like a wave that threatened to smother her and leave her a quivering mess on the ground. The good news is everyone believes Riley. And we got an Incredibles reference, yay! The bad news, no one really knows how to fix her yet. She may stay that way forever. Oh, Riley managed to whisper. Okay. Cheer up. Don't worry about it, Riley. I think you could be a superhero one day if you want to. Riley, she heard Hiro say from behind her, and the sadness threatened to crush her completely as he laid his hand on her trembling shoulder. We can't, Sandus whispered. We can't be here. I have to go, Riley said quickly, pulling away from Hiro's touch and making her way towards the door, tears streaming down her face. I have to go. Riley, wait! Hiro pleaded, but the girl was already gone, the door swinging closed behind her. There was a moment of silence as the group fought over what had just happened. Sorry, I ran into a leaf. What are we going to do? Honey fretted, her fingers nervously entwined with one another. What can we do? Gogo questioned helplessly. We don't know the first thing about telepathy. Empathy, Fred corrected, a pensive look on his face. Oh, wow! Excuse me? Gogo asked as she arched an eyebrow at Fred. Riley's, superpower isn't telepathy, it's empathy, Fred explained. Empathy is when you feel another person's emotions. Most of the time, that just means you've gone through the same experience as someone else and thus know what they're feeling through experience. In Riley's case, though, she literally feels what other people are feeling. I suppose that would make her an empath. After Fred had finished his explanation, he glanced around at the others, who were staring at him in surprise. What? Fred questioned, arcing an eyebrow in confusion. We've just never heard you talk like that, Fred, Tadashi explained, the others nodding in agreement. Come on, guys, Fred said, rolling his eyes with a snort. Just because I don't go to your school doesn't mean I go to school at all. As fascinating as this little conversation is, I think we need to figure out what to do about Riley. Gogo spoke up, crossing her arms over her chest as she regarded the others. I don't know how we can help her, Honey said with a sigh. Learning to control your own emotions can be hard enough, especially for someone her age. I can't imagine what it's like trying to focus when you feel other people's emotions too. As Honey finished speaking, Wasabi's eyes widened as a thought came to him. I think I have an idea, he declared as he began jogging towards the door. What idea is that? Gogo questioned as he passed her. I'll let you know if it works, Wasabi shouted back before disappearing through the door, leaving his friends to watch him leave with confused expressions. Quickly hopping into his van, Wasabi fastened his seatbelt and started up the engine before driving towards Riley's house as fast as traffic laws would allow. After a few moments, Wasabi spotted Riley walking down the sidewalk and pulled his van over next to her. Riley! He called, his car rolling along next to the girl as she walked. Hey, Riley! Riley glanced over at Wasabi, but otherwise ignored him and kept walking. Come on, Riley, Wasabi said. I'm sorry for what I said and felt. I was a jerk. I should have believed you. Riley stopped walking inside before turning to face Wasabi, his van rolling to a stop in front of her. What do you want, Wasabi? Riley questioned. I wanted to give you a ride home, Wasabi explained. I wanted to make sure you got there okay. We should mess with him, Joy advised, as Riley fought over Wasabi's offer. Riley took a moment to glance up and down the street. You know you're a grown man who just invited me, a 12-year-old girl, into your van, right? Riley questioned with a bemused expression. Well, geez, Wasabi replied as he nervously glanced around as well. Thanks for making it weird. Riley snorted in amusement before she walked around the van and got in on the passenger side. Well, that was a good way to break up the tension now, wasn't it? So, why did you really pick me up? Riley questioned as she buckled up and Wasabi pulled out onto the road again. Well, I had an idea, Wasabi answered as he drove. An idea that might help you control your new gift. I wonder if his idea is Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. That's what he calls it? Discussed question with a snort. I wouldn't call it a gift, Riley said, turning her gaze out the window, watching the buildings on the side of the road roll past. Maybe not yet, Wasabi admitted. But that's because you don't know how to use it. If you got it under control, you might feel differently. Maybe, maybe not, Anger said with a mocking voice. We don't deal in fairy tales here, pal. Well, I can't control it, Riley snapped, whipping her head around to glare at Wasabi. So if you don't actually have a solution, maybe you should just shut up. Riley glared at Wasabi for a few minutes, feeling the pity radiating from him before turning away again. Well, luckily I do have an idea, Wasabi said, his attention on the road. Do you remember my teacher, Takahito-sensei? The old Japanese guy? Joy pondered aloud. I do, Riley confirmed with a nod. He's your boss and the guy who taught you karate. That's true, but he knows other things as well, Wasabi explained. Things like meditation and Tai Chi. He could teach you them. Wait, what's Tai Chi? Joy questioned in confusion. I think it's those weird, wavy motions we see old people doing in the park sometimes, Disgust explained. It seems kind of like yoga, but less trendy. You think that will help? Riley questioned hopefully. It's all about control, both of your mind and your body, Wasabi answered. I know from experience that it helps control your emotions. So why shouldn't it work for our emotions as well? I guess it makes sense, Sandus commented as Riley fought over Wasabi's words. Okay, Riley agreed with a nod. It's worth a shot. Whoa. Sorry if you heard me, I'm just reading this and recording it. I'm just reading this and recording it in a video.
What is it?
It's a story that I'm reading and recording. Okay, take care. Willie. Sorry. I agree, Wasabi said with a nod. I'll run it by Sensei, though I'm confident he'll agree. We usually train in the park on Saturday mornings. Does that work for you? Sure, Riley agreed. A small smile spreading across her features as Wasabi came to a stop outside her house. Thanks, Wasabi. Don't mention it, Wasabi replied with a grin. Now, I think you need to get to bed. It's school night after all. Thanks, Mom, Disgust groaned as Riley rolled her eyes while chuckling. She quickly collected her things and hopped out of the van before making her way towards the house. Thanks, Wasabi, Riley called, waving to the young man as he began to drive away. Night! See, you guys? Riley heard Joyce say to the others. I told you there would be some way to handle this. Things are looking up. Smiling, Riley couldn't help but agree as she made her way up the stairs to her house. I think I'm gonna split this up. Yeah, that's Sento Kiryu, Kamen Rider build. I love Kamen Rider and he's one of my favorites. Alright, second part. A few days later, Riley sat bleary-eyed on her bed, stifling a yawn as she pulled her hair back into a tight ponytail, the purple streak in her hair running along the left side of her hair. She then quickly pulled on her white sneakers before standing up and straightening her black tank top and brushing off her capri-length yoga pants, also colored black with pink lines down the side. Walking over to her bedside table, Riley picked up her phone and checked the time. Wasabi will be here soon, Sadness commented. Oh, I'm so nervous. It'll be fine, Joy reassured her. It will be fun, and I'm sure this Takahito guy will be able to help us. Nodding, Riley slipped her phone into her pocket before exiting her room and heading downstairs. Jill smiled at Riley from the kitchen table, looking up from her coffee as her daughter made her way down the stairs. Morning, Jill greeted with a smile. Morning, Riley replied with a more subdued tone as she stepped into the kitchen. Everything okay? Jill questioned, Riley noting the hint of worry both in her tone and her emotions. Oh no! Fierce screeched. She's onto us! No, she's not, Disgust said with a tired sigh. She's just being Mom. Yeah, Riley replied with a reassuring smile. Just didn't sleep well last night. You need your sleep, Riley, Jill stated with a slightly admonishing tone. You're a growing girl, after all. Yeah, Riley chuckled as she glanced around the room. Dad's not at work again, is he? He is, Jill confirmed with a sigh. He's working on a very important project. Yeah, I know, Riley agreed with a sigh of her own. But if he keeps working like this, he's going to go crazy. You say that like your father hasn't already gone crazy, Jill said with a chuckle before noting Riley's outfit. Oh, that's right. You're going to the park with your friend Darren. Yeah, Wasabi's teacher agreed to show me some Tai Chi, Riley replied. Well, that's interesting, Jill commented as she took a sip of her coffee. What brought that about? On to us! Fierce screamed, causing Riley to visibly wince. Shut up! Disgust snapped in reply. It seemed interesting, Riley answered with a shrug. I met his teacher when Gogo and I went to a sushi shop on my birthday, and Wasabi thought I'd like it. As she finished, a knock came from the door. That's probably him, Riley observed as she began making her way towards the front door. I'll see you later, Mom. Jill waved in reply as Riley jogged up to the door and opened it. On the other side, Wasabi loomed above her, wearing a white karate gi held close by a black belt with a few gold stripes across it, along with a pair of sandals. "Morning, little lady," Wasabi greeted with a grin, the warmth of his happiness washing over Riley. "Ready to head out?" "Yep," Riley replied cheerfully. "All right, let's go," Wasabi stated, urging Riley to follow him as he made his way down the stairs. Trailing behind Wasabi, Riley followed him up to his van parked on the side of the street and hopped into the passenger seat. "How are you feeling today?" Wasabi questioned as he started the van up and made his way down the street. "I'm feeling..." Riley paused, licking her lips as she thought. "I'm feeling better, at least today." "School still rough?" Wasabi ventured, his emotions changing from happiness to worried concern. "You don't know the half of it," Disgust snorted. "Yeah," Riley sighed. "It's so hard being around so many people with so many emotions. Especially middle school." "Yeah, middle school," Wasabi sympathized, pausing to blow a breath out his mouth. "Middle school is tough." "You really think your teacher can help me?" Riley questioned hopefully. "If anyone can, it's him," Wasabi confirmed with a grin, and Riley could feel his confidence in his words. "How did you meet him?" Riley inquired. "It was by accident, mostly," Wasabi replied with a shrug. "Back when I first came to San Francisco for school, I was a bit of a nerd." "No, really?" Riley questioned sarcastically, disgust echoing the sentiment in her head. "You joke, but I was way worse when I first got here," Wasabi replied with a laugh. "I might be a neurotic nerd now, but back then I was a skinny, extremely neurotic otaku." What?" Riley questioned in confusion. "It's Japanese," Wasabi explained. "It basically means I was an antisocial, shut-in nerd." "He actually used to be worse?" Disgust questioned in shock. "Ugh, I hate to even imagine what that would have been like." "So, what does that have to do with how you met your teacher?" Riley questioned. "Well, no matter how antisocial you are, you have to eat at some point," Wasabi explained. "I didn't really care much for the cafeteria, so I started looking around at the local restaurants on the internet. I've always had a love for sushi, so Sensei's restaurant immediately caught my attention, actually. Sadly for me, they didn't deliver." "So you had to go there yourself," Riley surmised with a small smile. "Exactly," Wasabi confirmed. "I hated the idea back then, but I'm so happy that I managed to work up the courage to go. It changed my life." "Why did Takahito decide to help you?" Riley asked. "Pity, mostly," Wasabi answered with a self-deprecating snort. "He wasn't kidding when he told you I barely managed to get into the restaurant, and I'm surprised he figured out my order with how badly I mumbled it. He sat down and talked with me as I had my meal. It didn't take long for him to figure out what my problem was." "What was it?" Riley inquired. "Confidence, or the lack thereof," Wasabi answered. "I was a skinny kid with weird interests and a germ phobia. Let's just say I didn't have a lot of friends back home. Sensei thought he could help give that confidence, that I would be happier with it." "How did he give you confidence?" Riley asked. "He taught me things," Wasabi explained. "Like karate." "Really?" Riley questioned dubiously. "Karate gave you confidence?" "You laugh, but being able to punch through a wooden board is a pretty big confidence booster," Wasabi chuckled. "Why?" Riley questioned after a moment, a pensive look on her face. "Why what?" Wasabi questioned in confusion as he glanced at Riley. "Why did he help you?" Riley clarified. "You were a perfect stranger. Why did he decide to train you?" Wasabi paused as he thought over the question, before a smile began to spread across his features. "Sensei is a good man who is very good at reading people," Wasabi explained. "He knows what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they need, just by looking them in the eye. You could say he was empathetic in a way." Riley stared up at Wasabi as the van started to slow down. "We're here," Wasabi informed her as he parked the van. Looking up, Riley could see Wasabi had pulled the van into a parking lot attached to a small park. Cherry trees provided shade for the winding paths that made their way through the green lawn, winding around a fountain made out of white stone that sat near the center of the park. The park was almost completely empty, save for a single figure Riley could see standing on a small hill at the opposite end of the park, shaded by the low-hanging branches of a willow tree. "Sensei is already here," Wasabi observed. Nodding towards the figure as he stepped out of his van. "We shouldn't keep him waiting." Nodding, Riley hopped out of the van as well, and followed Wasabi across the park towards where Takahito was waiting. As they approached him, Riley could see that Takahito was wearing a gi similar to Wasabi's, although she noted that his belt was fading to gray from repeated washing. Takahito smiled as he watched them approach. "Good morning," he greeted with a friendly smile. "Good morning, Sensei," Wasabi replied, giving Takahito a deep bow with his arms locked at his sides, a gesture Riley awkwardly copied. Good morning," Riley mumbled as well. "Ugh, we sound so dumb," Disgust sighed. "What if he can't help us?" Fear wondered. "What if he can, but we're not good enough for him to teach us?" "No need to be nervous," Takahito said with a grin. "I do not bite. The dentist said I had to give it up." Riley giggled as she stood up straight again, some of her anxiety leaving her. "So, Darren told me that you might benefit from my teachings, though he avoided telling me why," Takahito stated, eyeing Wasabi as he spoke. It wasn't my secret to share, Sensei," Wasabi explained. Takahito nodded at this before turning his attention to Riley. "Perhaps I can answer this riddle then," Takahito said as he stepped forward so he was standing only a foot from Riley. As he did, he met Riley's gaze, his dark brown eyes looking into her blue ones. For a few moments, the two were silent, Riley beginning to fidget awkwardly, as it started to feel like Takahito was looking through her instead of at her. "What's he doing?" Sadness questioned. "I don't know, but it's freaking me out!" Fear squeaked. "This old man better back off if he knows what's good for him," Anger growled. "Come on, guys," Joy pleaded. "Give him a chance." As her emotions talked amongst themselves, Takahito finally blinked after what felt like an eternity to Riley, a small smile spreading across his features as he took a step away from the girl. "You require control," Takahito stated, catching Riley by surprise. "Your emotions wage war with one another, and with you." "Well, that seems a bit harsh," Joy commented. "But that is not all," Takahito continued. "Your emotions fight with something else. What is that?" I'm different," Riley explained as she looked away from Takahito. "From other people, that is." "Many people feel that way about themselves," Takahito observed, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "They are usually incorrect. But no, you are not different. You are unique. You possess something that no one else does. That scares you." Riley looked at Takahito in shock. "Oh, wow, he's good," Joy observed with awe. "How did you—" Riley began to ask. "You told me," Takahito answered with a wry smile, "as I hope you will tell me what makes you so unique." Have I ever said before that I really like Takahito? That he's basically become my favorite character in this fanfic? I don't even know if he appeared in any of the movies, but he's awesome. I can feel what other people are feeling, Riley answered hesitantly. "That is not unique," Takahito stated. "Any bleeding heart you see protesting in the street feels for others." "Oh, come on, Gramps!" Anger groaned in frustration. "And here I thought you were quick on the uptake." You don't understand," Riley sighed. "I can literally feel it. Whether someone is happy or sad or afraid, I feel it." Takahito studied Riley for a long, quiet moment. Slowly, he he turned his gaze up towards Wasabi. I didn't believe it either, Sensei, Wasabi assured him, glancing at Riley as he talked. But as far as we can tell, it's true. She has no reason to lie about this, and I don't think she's crazy. Takahito didn't comment as he turned his gaze back to Riley. I suppose this world has seen stranger things, Takahito commented sagely. This does not stretch the imagination past the point of impossibility. How did you come by this power? We can't tell him about O! Fear shouted. Superpowers are one thing, but an alien is a whole different kettle of fish! I'd rather not say, Riley replied, looking away from Takahito again. Very well, Takahito relented with a nod. Your secrets are your own. The how does not matter. If you are experiencing the emotions of those around you, it is even more important for you to learn to control them. Is that... Riley paused as she chewed her lip nervously. Is that possible? You say you can read emotions, correct? Takahito questioned with a wry smile, earning a nod from Riley. Then tell me, what am I feeling now? Riley furrowed her brow as she looked at Takahito in confusion. Though she had never tried to purposefully feel someone's emotions before now, Riley tried her best to focus attention towards Takahito, closing her eyes in an attempt to better concentrate. In the short time since her accident, she had started imagining the myriad emotions she felt as colors. No doubt influenced by her brief trip into her own mind. Anger was a fiery red, sadness a watery blue, happiness a sunshine yellow, fear a sticky purple, and disgust a sickly green. Even the other, more subtle emotions she had started noticing were simply different shades of these colors. Takahito gave off no color at all. Where does this guy even come from? That's cool! Perhaps that wasn't correct, Riley thought. It wasn't the numbing black she had imagined the depression she had felt weeks before looked like. Black was the lack of color and fed well to the lack of emotion. What Riley felt from Takahito was white and featureless, but it was not a drowning void like black depression. Instead, Riley felt a sense of calmness radiating off Takahito, a feeling of peace and serenity. She quickly realized this was not the lack of emotions, but all emotions in a controlled unity. For while black was the lack of color, white was all colors mixed as one. That's funny, I thought that all colors mixed as one was a rainbow color. I didn't know it could be white. Then again, the rainbows that I've seen usually have a white glow sometimes on them. Wow. Joy's voice echoed quietly. I'm sorry I can't stop myself from yawning, in Riley's head as she opened her eyes and regarded Takahito in surprise. Do you think I will be able to help you? Takahito questioned with an arched eyebrow. Yes, sir, Riley replied, having trouble finding her voice as she gave him a quick nod. Sensei, Takahito said insistently. I am your teacher now. I expect to be referred to as such. Yes, Sensei, Riley corrected herself. Good. Takahito smiled as he turned and made his way to the top of the hill, the drooping willow branches curtaining around him as he passed through them. Following him, Riley found that Takahito had set up 3 mats and a triangle at the base of the willow tree. Takahito walked over to one before turning to face them and sitting cross-legged on the mat. Riley hesitated for a moment as Wasabi walked past her and sat on one of the other mats, crossing his legs as well. Come, sit, Takahito insisted as he motioned to the free mat. Riley nodded and walked over to the mat before sitting, doing her best to mimic the position both Wasabi and Takahito were in. First, we will start with some meditation, Takahito stated. I find it is the best way for clearing your head of stress. Oh, great, Anger grumbled. So this is the part where we close our eyes and pretend not to fall asleep, right? Come on, Anger, Joy pleaded. Let's give it a chance. Anger grumbled to himself but didn't argue. So, how does this work? Riley questioned, getting as comfortable as she could on the mat. It is simple, Takahito answered. Sit with your back straight. Breathe slowly and deeply. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And think of nothing. Think of nothing? Riley questioned in confusion. So just let my mind wander? No, Takahito replied with a small shake of his head. You must think of nothing. No daydreaming. No imagination. Nothing. Thoughts and images may come to you in meditation, but you must not go searching for them. Do you understand? No! Anger snapped from inside Riley's mind. None of this makes any sense! Yes, Riley replied hesitantly. At least, I think I do. It will come in time, Takahito assured her with a smile, before turning so that his head faced straight. The old man closed his eyes. His muscles relaxed but not slumped, and started breathing slowly. Wasabi watched him for a moment before looking over at Wasabi, who she found in a similar state. Sighing, Riley settled as best as she could onto the mat, resting her hands on her knees and rolling her shoulders before relaxing them and closing her eyes. For a few moments, Riley did as she had been told, taking long, deep inhales through her nose, before exhaling through her mouth. The park was still largely empty, and the only sounds that reached Riley's ears were the cars rolling by the park and the wind whistling through the trees. This is stupid, Anger grumbled as Riley grew frustrated. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening because you don't have the patience to let it happen, Disgust replied with an annoyed tone. Chill out for a minute, would you? The two began to argue, and Riley chewed on her lip in frustration. She had to ignore them. But how do you ignore people in your own head? Opening one eye, she looked at Takahito and Wasabi, who was still sitting before her in meditative concentration. As Riley looked at them, she felt a quiet feeling of peace rolling off of both of them, though Wasabi's emotions weren't quite as controlled as his teacher's. Feeling this, a thought came to Riley. Guys? Sadness spoke up quietly, catching the others' attentions. I think Riley is doing something. Closing both eyes, Riley focused on the feeling of peace radiating off of Takahito. As it washed over her, Riley began shaping her own feelings to match what she felt as best as she could. As she did, her thoughts grew less distinct, and her sense of her surroundings started to drift away. Guys, she barely heard Fear say, what's happening? I don't... Joy began to reply, but Riley never heard the rest of it. Not that it mattered. Nothing felt like it mattered at that moment. Riley knew there were things that matter. They just didn't matter right then. She had no thoughts, no feelings, no worries. She simply was. Riley wasn't really even sure where she was. She knew she would remember if she thought about it, but there was no need for that at the moment. No smell reached her nose, no touch on her skin. She was barely aware she was sitting on a solid surface. She did hear a sound, though. A few gentle sounds, in fact. Something padded towards her on light feet. A nose sniffed curiously in the air. The wind stirred something long and soft. An image appeared to Riley then, though she couldn't say if she saw it or it appeared as a thought in her mind. It was hazy, as were the rest of her thoughts, but she could make out a few details. A canine appearance, soft blonde fur dashed with violet, and multiple tails. I believe that is enough for now. Takahito's voice cut through to her, and Riley's eyes snapped open in surprise. Everything came flooding back to Riley, and her senses once more began informing her she was in a park in the middle of a city. The strong feeling of peace did not fade, though, and Riley could not remember ever feeling as relaxed as she did at that moment. Whoa, Riley heard anger say in her head, the stunned shock obvious in his voice. That was nice, Joy commented. Weird, but nice. That was very good, Takahito commented with a serene smile. I am impressed with how well you did on your first try. Thank you, Sensei, Riley replied with a small smile of her own. I think this is going to help. I'm pleased to hear that, Takahito stated, a sparkle in his eye. Would you like me to show you more? Riley's excited smile threatened to split her face in half if it grew any bigger. Yes, Sensei. What a chapter. Office note. Well, this was an amazingly fun chapter to write. Really got to stretch my creative writing muscles with the emotions commentary, as well as Riley feeling and interpreting other people's emotions. To say nothing of the various dramatic scenes of this chapter. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I personally enjoyed the Incredibles reference and the end of the chapter, with the whole nine-tailed fox, I believe it was. Anyways, that will be all for now. Join me again for Chapter 11. Until then, I'm the Masked Ranger saying, Takahito is the best character in this entire story, hands down. Doodles!